So I've been on YouTube for about 9 months now, and everywhere I go, I ask people, why don't you start a YouTube channel? And usually I get the same response. They're too busy, they don't have the personality, they don't have the time, they don't see the point. And maybe you've been asked that question, or you're ready to get started like me 9 months ago, but you have no idea how to even get started. Maybe you've only got one small room to work with and no camera, and it puts you off from getting started. Well, hopefully I'm gonna help you with that. How's it guys? Welcome back. Today I want to show you guys how you can set up a YouTube studio in a small room, in a big room, in a long room, in a medium-sized room, in any type of room. If you don't have lights, if you only have a cell phone, if your budget is $3, if your budget is $500, it doesn't matter. You can take these tips, these tricks, and all the things that I'm going to say, and you can implement them into your YouTube studio setup. I also want to show you guys some of the equipment that I use. Listen guys, I have to say off the bat, I don't actually own any of this equipment besides the camera, the lens, and the tripod. Everything else I'm just using from the church that I work for. So before you guys come at me with some snarky comments like, it would be so nice if I had that mic, it'd be so nice if I had this, so nice if I had that, my videos will look so much cooler if I had those lights, then buy yourself some lights. No, seriously, links in the description for all the stuff I'm going to mention, so you can check it out there. Go buy yourself some lights. I think the biggest thing that people believe is that the space that they have does not work. They don't have the right room, their background doesn't work, it's too boring, it's too busy, there's not enough light, there's too much light. The truth is, you can make any space work for you and it doesn't actually have to cost a lot of money. I mean, take me for instance. I use this room to film all the time, but when I need to let no light come into the room, I've got some black bags with tape holding them up. Problem sorted. Links in the description too. And if you don't have enough light, you don't need to go and buy another light. Just open up the curtain and there you go. See, the truth is you could actually have a YouTube studio set up pretty much anywhere, as long as you have these three things: lights, camera, and good audio. And I'll admit it, it's really good to have this space that I do. I have multiple angles that I can work with. I have white lights, I have color lights, I've got a good camera, I've got a really good mic, so it's pretty easy. But what happens if you have a small room with none of that stuff? The thing with videos is you need some space in order to get your subject into the frame. Otherwise, it's just gonna look pretty awkward. I did this for a few videos on my channel already. When we went into lockdown, I filmed some of my videos from my house. I had to use the smallest room in our house. In this case, the best thing to do is to film from corner to corner. Put the camera in one corner, choosing the opposite corner as the one that'll give you the best background. This will create the most depth. I also use the light to create contrast. On the one side, I have a cool light coming off my ring light, and on the other, a warm light from the lamp and the LED on the floor. Because blue and orange are on opposite colors of the spectrum, this creates contrast. You can do the same with green and magenta and red and cyan. I also use a low aperture lens. This lens is a Fujifilm 35mm f2 lens. Because of its low aperture, it creates a blurry background which separates me from the background. And this is exactly what I did with my videos when I filmed at home. I put a cool light on the one side of me and a warm light on the other side just from a lamp in order to create some contrast. Not bad for a small room. Now don't worry too much about your background. See, ultimately it doesn't matter. I had my cupboards in the background of those videos. As long as your content is good, people will watch your videos no matter what is in your background. And if this still doesn't work for the room that you have, then put yourself right next to the window and pick a wall that's got the cleanest background. It doesn't have to look perfect. Don't worry about getting your background looking amazing when you're starting out. So what equipment do you need when you're setting up a YouTube studio? I want to show you some of the equipment that I use. This stuff is really not expensive and I think I use it pretty well to make some good videos. So these lights that I use are the Yongnuo YN600 variable LED panel. These lights are great because they have daylight temperature as well as warm temperature. Daylight temperature lights are great because they're best at replicating the light from the sun. So you could have one of these lights and use a window as your second source of light and the color temperatures would match. They'll look exactly the same. The warmer lights would be used for artificial light. So if you don't have any natural light or you're shooting at nighttime and you have some of your house lights that might be on, you would use the warm light in order to match that color. And these things are really powerful. They're dimmable. At the moment, I've got this thing set on about 4% and it can go pretty bright. You can buy a battery pack. It doesn't come with the lights, but I would encourage you to get it if you're going to be mobile with your set. It also comes with a remote and diffusion panels. So in the background, giving me some cool light is my ring light. So I pretty much use this ring light for my dancing videos on TikTok. I'm just kidding. I only use this light for its color. I use it to add some color to my backgrounds to create some color contrast. It's really simple. This one is an RGB ring light, which means you can have color as well as warm light and white light. If you are going to get a ring light, get an RGB one, which allows you to create colors as well as warm and white light. You get the full color spectrum, it's dimmable, and the light spreads really nicely. So out of all the equipment that I use, the one thing that actually belongs to me and that I own is my camera. I went for the Fujifilm X-S10. I have made a video of why I chose that camera. You can check it up there. But I absolutely love this camera to bits. I would highly recommend this camera to anybody who's starting out in videography. What I like most about this camera, especially for a YouTube studio setup, is that it's got the flippy screen on the right. So I have a monitor right next to me. Now I just flip the screen out and I can see exactly what everybody else was seeing. And if you don't have the money to buy a camera, buy a second-hand camera. And if you don't have money for that, you can use your cell phone. Most phones nowadays have really good cameras, and there's nothing wrong with starting out on a cell phone. Here's a little trick for people who are filming videos on their cell phone. When you're filming on your phone, don't just hit record. When you move in and out of the frame, the phone's sensors will change the lighting and the exposure in order to match the picture that's moving. And the camera's gonna adjust, and it's gonna look really weird with the light coming in and out and with exposure changing constantly. What you have to do is press and hold on your subject with your finger. This will lock the focus and the lighting on the phone. If it's still too dark, scroll up with your finger in order to adjust the lighting, and it'll keep it locked. Then, when you move in and out of the frame, the exposure and the focus are locked and they'll remain constant. So I've looked at my lights, my camera. I want to talk about my audio. I use a Rode video mic, shotgun mic. With a shotgun mic, you need to position it just off of the frame as close to your subject as possible. And you want the point of the microphone to point towards the chest or the chin, around this area. Hey, and if you can't afford that, you can always use a cell phone. Cell phones nowadays have some really good microphones, and it's better than using the in-camera audio. Just get your cell phone's microphone on and put it just out of frame as close to your subject as possible. Then all you do afterwards, you just match the audio up in post. Just a few more things that you'll need in order to set up a studio. You need a tripod. So my tripod is really lightweight. It's very basic, but it does the job. And the last thing that I use every now and again is a reflector. At the moment, it's off to the side. It's reflecting light. This thing is really cheap. Again, all links in the description for the equipment that I use. This is also useful for if you're shooting outside and you need to reflect some light, or there's too much light and you need to cast some shadows or just drop the light. Having this reflector will help a lot. And as you can see, this stuff isn't really expensive. And again, I haven't even bought this stuff. I'm literally borrowing it from someone else. So if you don't have the money, see if you know a friend who's into videography and they have some lights that you can use, or work out a time when you can go over and use their stuff. It doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg in order to get started. But if you're wondering, where can I put my money into in order to get started? Well, I would have to say start with lighting. I've created a video on lighting and how to set it up in order to make your videos look good, so you can check it out here.